Well,
The size of the excitation loop was what really got me. It's like, wow.
Kurt had that 40-meter mag loop at his house. I think he at one point I think
Meeting is starting.
he
Quiet,
positioned it.
please.
Sorry,
Meeting is starting. Quiet, please.
We can't hear Karl.
Carl's on mute. Ross is on mute. That's what's causing it.
Now I understand. All right, try that.
Testing 1, 2.
Get real close to the mic.
Testing 1, 2. Testing.
Get
Hello, hello, hello.
off of there. You don't unplug it.
Good morning, everyone. Can everybody hear me? No, you can hear me because I know. Check, 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 check.
For an hour.
Good morning, everybody. Welcome to Mike and Key General Meeting. I think this morning we have Ross as our activity. He's going to do a POTA presentation, W7ROV. So come on up, Ross.
Thanks, Karl. Bill worked all morning on that sound effect. This is the problem with live television. All right.
Test 1, 2. Testing 1, 2. Test, test, test. Test 1, 2. Okay.
All right. Now everyone can hear me on Zoom and very good. So Parks on the Air. I'm going to talk about Parks on the Air, but it's not going to be your typical Parks on the Air presentation because everyone has probably seen 6 or 7 of those. But I will in the beginning, I'm just going to talk about Parks on the Air. Okay, so next slide, Scott. So what is POTA and how do we activate a park? We're working on the next slide here. All right, Parks on the Air, field day every day. That's one thing about it. And it's a new environment for most of us because we're not at home. We go off somewhere and operate portable. And some of the benefits of that is if you've got a lot of QRM in your condominium, your house, or on your street or something, you can get away from that. And you get some fresh air and you have a lot of fun. Also, being able to operate portable increases your skill set for when there is an emergency and you need to actually go out and support the community in some way, whether it be a parade or an earthquake or whatever. So POTA was founded in September 15th, 2010, and specifically to encourage amateur radio operators who enjoy the outdoors, but who may not be interested in or able to take long hikes or make steep climbs. So I put myself in that category. If I can't drive there in my Jeep, then I'm probably not going to go. So next slide. So POTA predates the ARRL's National Parks on the Air. They had that in 2016. POTA has two operators, the activators that actually go out into a park, set up portable, and then they try and get 10 QSOs to activate the park. Hunters, you're sitting at home or anywhere in your car, in the Safeway parking lot or wherever, and you're listening for the activators, or you pull up the spotting sheet at POTA.app and say, oh, there's a guy claiming geyser on this frequency. I'll go to that frequency, listen to him, and I'll answer him. There you go. It doesn't require a lot of hunting and seeking because you can look up and see where they've spotted themselves. So, and the POTA activities are importantly, they're run by volunteer hands just like us. So give them the respect they deserve, the same kind of respect that you'd expect. Next slide, Scott. So if you go to parksontheair.com, I've updated this presentation on the POTA page on our groups IO. So if you guys want to download it, you can just go up there and download it. POTA spots, you can see all the parks currently being activated and their associated frequencies and modes. So you can do that. That'll show everything in the entire world, or you can zoom into just Washington. And there's a great little tool on there that says click, help getting started. Register using your email at the POTA site. That'll make things a lot easier. Then log on to the database-driven system, the POTA.app, and you can check your account. Now, if you've never POTA'd before, you won't see anything in your account. But if you're a guy like Mike, N7URH, he's got 6 or 7 pages of awards and activations. So anyhow, that's how you get your see what you've how many points you've got. And POTA etiquette for hunters is to say your call sign once. So if you hear somebody saying CQ POTA, Whiskey 7 Romeo Oscar Victor, what you do as a hunter, you just say your call sign once, and then me being the activator will contact you. That limits pileups. Next slide, Scott. As a hunter, you want to contact each activator. And you get their QTH, where they're located, and a signal report. And let's see, you can click on this link, and that'll show you a map of where all the parks and the activators are. And as an activator, the park must be either a national park, a national forest, or a state park. And at the website, you can enter in that park, national forest, or whatever, and it'll give you a POTA number. And you can operate from your vehicle, a park bench. You can have your handy-talkie and just be walking around. Your station must be within the boundaries of the park, and you need 10 QSOs, like I said earlier, to activate the park. And if you change your frequency or change your mode, then you can stay at the park and reactivate the park. So submit your log to the POTA coordinator in a .ADI file. And we'll get to the details on that. And that's really, really easy. Let's see. No repeaters can be used, but you can use satellites. Spot your POTA activations on parksontheair.com. Pull down the menu and click Add Spot, and then you enter where you are, your frequency, your mode, that information. And most importantly, when you go to a park and leave, you should leave no trace. No one should know you were there. That'll make the rangers really happy. So if you have like a bunch of you, it's always good to coordinate with the rangers. So I'll talk about that a little bit later too. So next slide, Scott. All right, now here are some great rigs for POTA, and this is not all inclusive. This is just basically what I have seen and what I have. The IC7300, great radio. The only thing it lacks is 2 meters, 70 centimeter. The FT817, 818, those are POTA classics. Those are 5 watt QRP radios. And then underneath that is the FT891. That is 100 watts, but it's in a really small package. Great for POTA. Now, I don't recall, who's familiar with the 891? I'm not familiar with, does it have 2 meter and 70 centimeter, or is it just HF? Yeah, just HF. That's what I was thinking. Now, I've also got a Zygu G90. I call that the Parman's IC705. And it's got a nice little waterfall, 20 watts, but it is only HF also. And then, you know, I've taken out my FT3D also and worked parks. So next slide, Scott. There's a 705 is a great little radio, 10 watts with a battery, and it's got 2 meter and 70 centimeter. And then I show this is my FT991A, and what I power it with, even at home, is my Jackery 300. It's got plenty of power to power 100 watts. I just plug it into the 12 volt port, like it shows up on the picture there. No, this is strictly DC. I plug in into the DC port of the Jackery. It doesn't make sense to use the inverter to power a 12 volt DC radio because the inverter costs money. Yeah. Oh yeah. Robert's question was that the output of the Jackery 12 volt port, the cigarette lighter port for us old guys, is it says 10 amps. But when I'm on 100 watts, it's drawing about 115 watts. There's a meter on the thing. It works fine. And what I do is to just check. I'll put on the FT991. I can select the VDD, the drain voltage for the output, and if that doesn't drop down below where it should be, then you're good. So I've got an older Jackery 500, and the inverter is really noisy. This is a Jackery 300 Explorer, the newer one, quiet. So next slide. Yeah, go ahead.
When I run my 7300 portable, I can only run about 50 watts because, well, I run at 50 watts most of the time because it needs 10 plus amps to do that. To run full power takes 22 amps on the 7300 on TX. So just that's the FYI. That's what it pulls on the transmit. And I found that out because I have smaller LiPo batteries and only have 10 amp charge or 10 amp outputs in them, and I need 2 of them to run my 7300 at home, my home jack. So there you go.
Another option is lithium ferrous phosphate battery, which of course is 12 volt, and you won't have a current issue that way. That's actually what I've done before I got the Jackery. Not so much anymore. Yeah, lithium ferrous phosphate have really come down. Yeah. Robert, KC7WB.
Hello, name is Eric, N7DLV. When I operate portable, I have a 100-watt solar charger with the solar panel, and I use D-cycle marine batteries. They're relatively inexpensive. A group 24 is relatively light. I can carry a group 27 or even a group 29. And those provide plenty of power for portable operation for all weekend, and also great for portable operation for field day and POTA.
Yeah, there you go. There's a few things that I didn't know. I've never used a 7300, but my FT991 is just happy with the 12-volt output of the jackery. And I've also got it's an electric outboard battery box that I've got a 100-amp Battleborn lithium ferrous phosphate battery in, and it'll last for weeks. So kind of the same setup that Robert was talking about. But so any other comments, questions? All right. So this is the next slide, Scott. So this was my first POTA in 2022, and I went to Flaming Geyser Park with a couple guys, and I'll show you a picture of the actual park. And we were up on a little knoll, and I coordinated with the ranger there, and he wasn't really on board with going up there because he said that was a critical area. And I told him that when we leave, you won't know we were there. And I invited him to drop by and see what we were doing. That's always a good thing, because the rangers are always curious and they want to know what we're doing. And this happened at Winter Field Day last year. And because I was walking the dog, and one of the rangers came up to me and she says, I've noticed all these antennas. And she pointed at Bill's camp. It looked like an antenna farm. And I said, we're ham radio operators doing Winter Field Day. And then she was very curious. And it sounded like she was going to get her license after that. So, and the rangers are really friendly. And if you keep them in the loop, they'll be on your side. So anyhow, it was raining that day, so I put up my little gazebo, and the minute I put it up, of course, the rain stopped. So, but this picture, this is the arrow. You can barely see Heath's vertical with a loading coil, and the mast was Don's. I forget what he had. I think he had a Yagi on top with a rotator. And then in the background, you can see my 40-meter dipole that I built, set up. So, but Heath's vertical shows that you don't need a big antenna. And actually, Heath did better than either Don or myself. So there's one picture. Next slide. Oh, this is always good. Useful and recommended accessories. Bring some sort of shelter or to keep the rain off you, the sun, the bugs. I did a couple Black Diamond marathons, and I sat in my chair, and at Amazon I got this little sunshade umbrella thing that clips to my seat, my chair, and it kept the sun off my head. And my scalp burns really good. So that was, and it's very small and light. So, and it doesn't matter if you're in the wintertime or in the summertime, you're going to want some sort of, at least a hat. So you might want an antenna analyzer. You might want an antenna tuner, maybe like a FT991's got one built in. always bring a manual, like the nifty manuals, because I'll be sitting there and I'm going, oh man, how do I do this? And then I'll look it up. Oh yeah, I remember now. So, but without the manual, I'd probably still be sitting there. So bring various tools like I always wander around with my Leatherman thing. It's a Gerber, but it can be the handiest thing. And I also got a flashlight. Bring some paracord, electrical tape, extra coax. You might find that you have a bad coax cable. And if you got extra coax, you're all set. PC or a tablet. This PC here has got LTE capability and a GPS in it. So it's very capable, but you can bring a cheap Amazon Fire tablet and then turn your phone into a hotspot. So then you have internet connectivity on your Fire. And pencil and paper. Pencil and paper, and they never run out of batteries. And if you break the lead, you can use your Leatherman to sharpen it. So next slide, Scott. And the activators submit their logs to POTA, and the hunters are purely passive because the activator records the hunters who they made QSOs with, and when they turn in their .ADI file, then the POTA people know who the hunters were. So the hunters don't have to do anything except talk on the radio. That's a really great thing about POTA. I use hammers. It's HAMRS, and there's the link in the presentation. It's free. I think it's like $2.50 if you get it off Apple Play or Google Play, just because it's there. But if you download your PC or something, it's free. And then you can also download the paper sheet that I've shown here from the POTA website. And next slide. So the activators, you're making your file, and Hammers has got a template for POTA. So you just fill that thing out, and it automatically populates your file, and it's on your computer. And when you want to download it, you click on your call sign up in the corner there where the yellow arrow is, and then there's a pull down menu, and it says My Log Updates. So you click on that. Next slide. Next slide, Scott. And this comes up, and the only thing you have to do is go to your directory, find your ADI file, drag and drop it into that box, and there's a couple of check boxes you want to check, and it's done. It's a lot easier than it was a few years ago. So next slide. Another thing Hammers has got, you can, in the middle tab there, you can click on Map, and that'll show you all the places you've contacted, made QSOs with. And then next slide. This is the POTA, or the spot site. So if you're looking for, like me, at Flaming Geyser, you can look up Flaming Geyser Park here, and you'll see me, you'll see my frequency and my mode. And then you can dial your radio, tune it in, and you can make contact with me. So it makes it really, really easy. Next slide. And then I always take my ARRL band plan with me. And I got an interesting story. The first time I did a POTA, I had become a general, but I was in the extra frequencies. So I got a telephone call from an extra in Yakima or Spokane, and he told me, and I should have been watching more closely. But it's one of those things that you'll never forget. So that's a. Just be careful about that. Only operate where you've got privilege.
I'll intercept it for a moment to mention that most of the POTA activity tends to stay in the general portion of the HF bands. so that all people can contact.
Yeah, Eric, N7DLV again. Most modern transceivers, you can set up in some of the memories, band limits, an upper frequency limit and a lower frequency limit. Just remember that when you do that, if you're on upper sideband, you have to make sure that the upper part of your voice audio does not fall outside your limits, and the opposite for lower sideband for the bottom edge of the band. You got to make sure you do that. Otherwise, you will transmit outside of the band limits, and you'll be in violation. But I use a Kenwood and a Yoiu, and both of those have 10 memory channels which you can program upper frequency limits and lower frequency limits. And when you're in those memory channels, the transceiver itself will not allow you to transmit outside of your authorization.
Yeah, two more good points. Especially the point Eric made about transmitting on upper and lower sidebands. So, but we all know that stuff because we got our respective licenses and passed the test. Next slide, Scott. So this is Flaming Geyser Park, and you can see the POTA site where we parked, and that's the north end of the park. And I got that picture off Google Earth and made this so everyone knew where we were going to be, which is another handy thing to do. Next slide. Yes. Well, there was. Then there was an earthquake and it shut it off, but you can still go look at it. Put a road flare there or something. Yeah. Yeah. So this is another picture on the other side of my shelter, and that shows my 40-meter dipole. Next slide. And that's the entire antenna setup. Next slide. Now, I got this hood. This is a laptop hood for like, if you're in California, you want to go be on the beach and use your laptop. And the radio is sitting on a monitor stand. And I've got the battery underneath it, the monitor stand, and I've got my nifty manual, and that little box next to the radio is an automatic antenna tuner that's made for the 705. So I got the whole shack sitting right there on a portable table. And this table was Frank's KC1 PIU, and great table. After we did this, I went out and bought one. But this was up at Raven Roost, and Frank and I were just doing a scouting trip. And if you want to read about it, it's in the November Mike and Key. So like it says, my original intention was to keep the sun off the radio and keep it from overheating. But as you can see, it also kept the snow off the radio. So this is a great idea, not very expensive. Next slide. And this is Ramrod 2023. And this is just a typical POTA setup. I was up at Cayuse Pass, and you can see I've got the headphones, the FT818. I do have a VHF amplifier that is 50 watts, great for 2 meters. And then the lightweight table, and you can see the solar panel and the Jackery 300s down out of sight here. Next slide. And I had my I had my elk log periodic on a mast I built, and you can get a flagpole insert from Amazon that goes into the receiver for your Jeep or car or whatever. And I just put the mast in the flagpole deal. That was my mast for the antenna. And you can see the Jackery down there in the lower left-hand corner. And it's tilted like that so I can look at it and see what the state of charge is and how much power I'm taking. And one thing important thing is have a comfortable chair. So, and a hat and some sunglasses. So, this was really a great experience. And this is the kind of setup that a lot of people use for POTA. It's not fancy, not a lot of equipment. You just go out, set up, and talk. So, next slide. So, this is the scouting trip that Frank and I did for Raven Roost. When we arrived, the sky was, it was pretty clear. There was blue patches of snow or sky, and this is POTA US 4531. So if you were going to activate it, I think Mike has activated Raven Roost. Go. Yeah. So click on the picture there, Scott. This is just my my cell phone camera. This is on top of the mountain. They cut 36 feet off the top of the mountain to make this big flat spot. But we had miles of visibility. That's Frank there. And then there's one of the big towers. And then I walked over to the edge. I just wanted to see what was below me, and it's pretty steep. It's pretty steep. So this is an elevation of 6,250 feet in the Okanagan Wenatchee National Forest. That's why it's got a POTA number. But conditions changed. Next slide, Scott. Next slide. There you go. No, back up. By the time we got the radio set up, this is what it looked like. You could barely see across the parking area, and it was cold and it was snowing. Same day. This is only about an hour and a half later. It was breezy. It didn't get windy until we left. But what was I going to say? Frank looked over me and he said, "Look." And I looked over the side of the mountain, and the cloud was just boiling up. And all of a sudden, we got socked in and it started to snow. But I wanted to show you this. This picture's in the Relay article too. I used a Buddy Stick Pro, and this little orange thing hanging below the Buddy Stick, that's a 5-pound dumbbell weight. And I just hang it from the center, and that lowers the center of gravity of the whole thing, keeps it from blowing over. And there's the hood for the radio, and I'm sitting there in my heavy coat, and we talked to Colorado, Utah, and then I got on I had the Ed Fong J pole in the that's my Soda Beam 12-foot mast, put it in the flagpole mount, and I just wanted to see, gee, can we touch the K7 LED repeater? So I tuned up the IC705, and I heard Dean N7SX XF and Wayne talking, and it was 5 by 9. And then I said, "Hi, you guys." And they said, "Where are you?" And I said, "I'm on Raven Roost, 6,250 feet. And yeah, it was great. It was absolutely great. So I was very surprised and pleased. So, and then these are, if you're interested in POTA, I've got these books downloaded in my Kindle, so I can take them with me. And it's got all sorts of great information on POTA, its history, and that sort of thing. So I highly recommend those. And next slide. Now, what I've just said for the last 5 or 30 minutes is all leading up to this, because I'm the activities manager in this this club. And Karl is always calling me on the phone and telling me or asking me to get, how do we get the membership involved in an activity? So I pondered and pondered and pondered and talked to Robert, KJ7 CBO. He's also trying to get people involved. And we came up with a POTA. So POTA Adventures for the club. And you can see there, I kind of integrated the POTA logo with our logo, but I had to run that by the POTA people and say, is this okay? Can we do this? And they said, fine. Another click there, Scott. Nope, go back. There you go. Now that's our POTA logo, the Mike and Key POTA Adventure logo. Oh, we can make that, you know. Well, yeah. At least you can tell they're a WES and N. So the only thing we can't do with this logo is put it on things we're going to sell to the public. So that's our new POTA logo. Next. Well, we could donate it. Well, we could sell the shirts in the group. We can't sell something with that logo outside of the group. But yeah, we could do that. Yeah. So the whole deal is I'm calling it the Mike and Key POTA Adventure Series. And you saw the pictures from Raven Roost. That's a really cool place to go. If you've never been there, I really encourage you to go up there and check it out. I know Dean's been there. You haven't? I thought you've been up there. Oh, okay. So it's on his list now. And then back in 2022, what'd you do there, Scott? My picture got smaller. Go back. There you go. In 2022, John KJ7KSX and Joel KJ7SXR and myself. And I swear there was another person, but 2 years ago was a long time. But anyhow, we went up above Greenwater, turned on Forest Service Road 77 and wandered up into the mountains. And this is about 5,500 feet. And look at the view. This is why I chose Adventures, because if we didn't have ham radio and we didn't, for some reason, say, hey, let's go portable somewhere, we would never have discovered this spot. And I think somewhere we've got the lat long for this spot. But you can see the weather was just great. It was just a lot of fun. So this is kind of the adventure, and this is in the Mount Baker Snoqualmie National Forest, US 4530. So you don't have to be like in Flaming Geyser State Park to do this. So next slide. We turned off 410 on Forest. So then you went up to a T and we turned right. And then we wandered around and we found this is a little pull off above the road. And a lot of people, you could see that they camped there and stuff. And we just set up there. It's the first road. And then when you turn right, you're on another road. You can get a map at the ranger station and see all these roads and where they're going. No, the roads we rode, the roads we were on for this trip, they weren't bad. Now going up to Raven's Roost, the last maybe 10% of the road was pretty rough. So So, yeah, go ahead. Yeah. The question was, going up to Ravens Roost, can you use a full-size, pickup, four-wheel drive? And yes, you can. And we saw a lot of elk hunters up there. Down below, Ravens Roost, there's quite a few campsites. So. You said that the, hunters, the parks set a sequence, national parks, state parks, and national forests. Well, we live over on Gig Harbor, the other side. The city publishes a list of parks. They make no differentiation between national, state, city, county, whatever. But there is a lot of them. So the receiver, I'm trying to figure out if we're in somewhere in Gig Harbor and it's a city park. Okay, that doesn't count for POTA. That doesn't count for active. So you could be a hunter there and get activated at a national or state park by somebody else. Okay.
Say that again?
Yeah, say that again.
Yeah, if you are replying somebody who is activating a park and you are not in one of the qualifications, national, state, park, entity, you aren't activating where you are, but you're helping the other guy activate. And that's a subtle difference.
This is Mike and KC7SAG. I just want to make one quick add-on to what Ross was saying. There's actually quite a bit more land that he wasn't mentioning. There's a lot of in the POTA list. There's a lot of state DNR lands that are there, and that adds a whole pile of lands on there. DNR. Department of Natural Resources. There you go. Thank you. There's a lot of that you can do. That's broadens it out. And I actually use the OnX off-road app to look for those little pieces of land that are all over the place. And it's a matter of a lot of web searches and figuring out that this land is in this park and this type of thing. If you really want to find those, but there's a lot of like little fishing spots and little places, little interesting places you can do when you do your research. And if you do enough research, so what I actually end up doing is for salmon run, I actually have a spot that's on a county line, so I can get a county line salmon run activation. And at the same time, it's on the Pacific Crest Trail and in the National Forest, so I can then submit all my salmon run logs to POTA afterwards and get them a double park activation. So it's a 2-county and a 2-fer. So I'm doing a whole lot of activation for the weekend, and it's a lot of fun out in the middle of nowhere. Yeah, and I get to watch all these hikers walk through the whole time and swim wave all these hikers, which is kind of wondering what I'm doing.
But yeah, that just adds to you can go almost anywhere in the state, activate, do a POTA, and you can have a view like I've shown you on Ravens Roost and what we did in Mount Rainier a couple years ago. Now, here's a map. The upper map is each green dot is a state park. And then down here, we have a map of the counties. And then over in the lower right-hand corner, there's the national parks. Now, I've put on the POTA page for the groups IO, you can find these maps, and we'll get there. So next, one thing else before you move, go back to that. In the counties, I put a red border around all the counties that Mike and Key members are part of. And as you can see, it covers most of Western Washington. And then over here on top, if you live in Thurston County, you can find Thurston County and identify, well, how many parks are there? So next slide. So the activation teams, we want to have a general or an extra, someone who's experienced in POTA, team up with a technician, or what I've come to call is a shy operator, someone that's mic shy. Team up with those guys, go to a park and activate it. And then the experienced operator will let the tech or the shy op, operate the radio. And they'll discover, hey, this is not very difficult and it's kind of fun. And this will stimulate the technician to get his general and the shy op to be a little bit more active with the radio. Now, the goal for the club is to make as many Mike and Key park to parks. So if I'm in Flaming Geyser Park and Roberts in Saltwater Park, and we make a QSO between ourselves, that's a park to park. So you get more points. And or when we're doing this, you'll probably find other people doing POTA across the country, and you can get non-Mike and Key park to parks or just non-Mike and Key QSOs. So you just put all that stuff in your log. So and we want to get as many contacts as possible. Now, the hunters, you can be in your living room or your shack, or say, hey, we're going to be up skiing at Crystal Mountain, and take your 2-meter handheld, and when you're sitting in the parking lot up at Crystal Mountain, you can make some contacts. I've done that myself. I'm not a skier. I've never seen any snow up there, so the beauty about being a hunter is that you can be anywhere. You don't have to go anywhere. And this is great for people that are housebound for whatever reason, or they just don't have the time to go out and spend a day in a park or something like that. Now, up on the IO page, can you give the Washington State Parks? Click on the link. Right. Now a spreadsheet should come up. He's got to share the spread. He's got to share that application. There it is. So I built this for myself because this year I was going to activate a park every week. I haven't activated one. But this is a great spreadsheet because you can sort on the name of the park, and so that, and if you go over to the scroll bar over there. Now there are the maps I was talking about. There's the county map, and then if you go down, you'll see the map with all the parks located. So maybe you just want to be on an ocean beach, so you can go there. And then the other link on go back to the presentation, Scott, if you would. Yes. Huh? No. Google Docs, I don't know if it can do this, but I couldn't figure it out. So go back to the presentation, Scott. No, the presentation. Oh, is this the other one? Oh, yeah. Okay. Scroll over to your right. Scroll bar to the right. No, bring the scroll bar to the left, rather. No, the other way, other side. I think this is the one we've been looking at. Oh, this is all the parks in Washington State. So you can sort on, say, someone says, I'm in 3035, you can sort on reference and go to 3035 or 3162, and it'll identify the park with a link to the park information, that kind of thing. These are handy tools that you can use as a hunter or an activator. So now we're ready to go beyond the, get back to the presentation. No, just the presentation. Yeah, the PowerPoint. There we go. I saw it come up on Mike's or Scott's. Although you have to share that, I guess. We're almost done here, you guys. There we go. Now I go down to like slide 22. Just type 20. There you go. You were there. Keep going. Keep going. Keep going. There we go. Now, this is, keep going. This is the POTA spotting page. Now, if you're an activator and you want to spot, just click on Add Spot, where the yellow arrow is, and it'll ask you for the information. Next page, Scott. And POTA rules will apply. And if you want to review the rules, go to POTA, docs.pota.app. The activators will be a general or an extra. They can team with a technician or a SHIOP, like I described. Hunters can team also, because you might be a hunter that's a technician, but you don't have privileges on HF. So if you team with someone that does have HF privileges, then you can be their guest and make the QSOs. Right, just like field day. Now, my proposed schedule is to the fourth Saturday of April, May, and June. And then that'll give us an amount of time to consolidate the API files and find out who did best. We can talk about it at the picnic in August.
Yeah, in the board meeting, he talked about May, July, and September, so this is a change, but yeah, June won't work. That's field day. Yeah, we will be in a park. We could.
No, well, yeah, you can activate Flagler. So, yeah, I had, like Robert said, it was May, June, and September earlier, but then we decided that it'd be great to be able to go over the results of the picnic in August. So that doesn't work. So all this stuff is then cast in stone, but we'll come to some conclusion. Yeah. Oh, okay. 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 So Mike was saying that every month there is a POTA weekend, a support your parks once a quarter. So I'll try and get that set up. No, you can do 2 meter, 220, 70 centimeter. Yeah, but you can't use a repeater. Simplex. But in Manfred's case, he can use his satellites. Yeah, you can do invis. What's that? That's three different activations. Is it? Okay. That's what I thought. Okay.
The activation teams and the activators are the ones that put the report in. The activation teams, the activators, are the ones that put the documentation in. The hunters are just out there trying to find a signal everywhere they can by whatever band they're on. So if the activator gets a reception from a hunter on, say, 2 meters in a particular park, they might get another activation on HF from the same park. And if there also can be somebody in a park, if they have a number of radios, can activate on the 2 meter one, on the HF one, and those are all different. But they would be all reported by the same activator.
Learning all the intricacies. Yeah. So we'll clarify that and make it clear to everybody. We're running out of time here. Next slide, Scott. And basically, camaraderie, teamwork, synergy. Next slide. And just have some fun. Next slide. And we've had plenty of good discussion today, but we've got 2 minutes until the business meeting starts. Okay, but we're coming up to the end. Like I said, this presentation's on the POTA page in the group's IO, so everyone can go there and look at it. Yes, and the 2 spreadsheets, the tools. So, and if you have any questions, we can talk about it. And maybe we can even have a Zoom meeting about it. So one other comment, one thing I'd like to know is, are you guys interested in this?
Thank you. Eric and 7DLV again. Yeah, this is great for club activities. One thing you do have to make sure is you have to follow the FCC rules for the RF exposure limits. And one good way to do that is to make sure you put a little perimeter thing around your antennas for the RF exposure limit. So people who are wandering through the park, whatever, do not enter that field that would exceed the RF exposure limits for your transmissions.
Now, in my experience, I've never had those RF exposure limits exceeded. And the tape around your antenna stuff is good just so little kids and people don't walk into it, especially if you have guys. Yeah, but Lake Washington Club has got a great RF exposure tool, and you should always check that out, like Eric was saying. So if somebody comes up and asks you, get the data, you can hand it to them. All right, we're going to call it wrap this up, and Robert and I are looking for people to say, yeah, I'm really excited about this and I want to do it. So I'm going to turn this back over to Karl.
Yeah, give a hand to Ross here. Take time. So our time is what? 11 o'clock. Let's do 5 after. Yeah, 5 after, we'll start the meeting. So we'll take a break.
I sent everybody.